We talked about a lot about Braveheart and why Braveheart can be the licensee in the deals. And let's move to the second topic about Jiangsu Hengrui because Hengrui is the top one, the biggest pharmaceutical companies in China. And I found another good example is BeiGene. Now their new name is the B1. Now
B1,
BeiGene is
right?
also very big. And one of their drugs have already launched in many countries and got a lot of the revenue. And the majority of their revenue is from the ex-China. So let's just compare Hengrui and the B1. I found they have the much different strategy. Even though Hengrui has already been the top one pharmaceutical company in China, their ex-China sales is not so important in their whole revenue, maybe less than 10% of their revenue is from the ex-China. Most of them is from the China still. But B1, most of their revenue is from the ex-China, not China. So that's one
Mm-hmm.
difference. The other one is till now I only heard about B1 is looking for the in licensing
Mm-hmm.
opportunity and not the out licensing opportunity. Yeah, but
Mm-hmm.
only in 2025 they have already three big deals about the out licensing. My question is that as a big pharmaceutical company, why Henry is still just choosing the out licensing as their important work? Why they don't just develop these projects, these promising projects by themselves and doing the ex-China sales? I think maybe the latter will help them have more profit. Yeah, how do you think about that?
That's a fascinating question. There may be two ways to look at this. One is to say, and we talked a little bit about this in the last talk we had, because again, I think Hengrui is just a fascinating company. Um, on the one hand, it could be that Hengrui is just so good at innovation because like we've talked about several times, they're in multiple therapeutic areas, multiple indications, different modalities, small molecule, monoclonals, rare disease. They're all over the place.
Yeah.
And on the one hand, you might look at a company like that and say, boy, they have no focus. But maybe their focus is innovation. And so and then when I say they, I mean management, shareholders, their board maybe looking at Hengrui and basically say that this is a company, they innovate. That's what they do. That is their core competency, to use an old expression. And that's what they do. And that's what they're going to do. And they're going to keep doing it until they run out of ideas in the basement of the lab. On the other hand, if you look at what used to be Beijing, um, maybe they have different aspirations. For them, it's less about innovation. More they want to be commercial. So I think the answer to your question is just personal preference. It's making a strategic decision, just like Michael Porter wrote about 30 years ago. Strategy is all about making choices. We're going to do this and not do that. So Hengrui is saying we're going to do this. We're going to innovate and out license. We're not going to be commercial.
Okay.
Beijing, they're going to do the opposite. We're going to be commercial. We're not going to be as innovative.
Okay.
It's just a choice, the strategic choice that they're making.
Okay. Yeah, hey, I think maybe I can just add my personal just understand about that. Yeah, yeah, because the compare with Jiangsu Hengrui, yeah, Baiji is a new founded company and it's just have a short history and Hengrui is a conventional
Mm,
pharmaceutical company in
mm,
China. At the beginning,
mm,
they just do the generic drug and then they add more innovative drugs into their pipeline. So following their development history, they want to do everything step by step. Just they don't want to be to the target at yeah so quickly. So they will choose to do the licensing out and at first and then do the sales by themselves. That's need a time for them. But by G, many of their top management is from the West. They are very familiar about to do the sales
Mm,
performance by themselves, at least
mm.
compared with some Chinese pharmaceutical company. So they don't need the process just from the license out to do the sales. So I think maybe it's might be one factors induce this kind of result.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. You know, if you're a long-standing company, where you have a tradition of, you know, generics, so you have a tradition of manufacturing, you can take those baby steps over time and eventually build that capability to be very innovative in many different areas. It's practically impossible for, let's say, a relatively new company to be innovative in lots of different things at the same time. It would take too much capital to do it. It'd
Yeah,
be impossible.
yeah,
So if you need to grow very, very quickly so that your investors are happy, then you have to be a commercial company.
okay.
You just have to. You have to be selling things as soon as possible in order to be able to generate those returns that your investors are looking for. Unless you want to, be your typical biotech where you're just banking all your money in this one particular drug candidate or two or three drug candidates. So, yeah, what you're saying makes a great deal of sense in that a company like Hengrui has that sort of historical long-term view of slowly being innovative over time. And I
Yeah.
suspect they're still being very successful on the generic side because that's what helps fund all this innovation. So I wish I had some shares in Hengrui. They must be doing very well.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Just now you mentioned about your question. Henry is very special because they have a big R&D department because they have of the projects for different indication in their
Yeah,
pipeline. I think because they have so many projects in their pipeline, so they cannot do all of them by
right. Oh,
themselves.
right. Yep.
Maybe in the early stage, it's okay because not so
Correct.
expensive. But in the late stage, especially the phase two, phase three, or the commercialization, each project needs a lot of the money. So they don't do that by themselves. The only way for them is just to license part of them projects out. That's
Yeah.
the way they can choose. But maybe in the future, if they found they needed to do more commercialization in the West by themselves, maybe they will change. They may be have a fitness for their R&D and just focus on some special indication or special areas. Maybe at that time their strategy might be a little different, will be
Yeah.
closer to the strategy of like the companies, Baiji or some other big farmers.